Shayne Fox, you're the production designer on season 4 of What We Do in the Shadows. What was it like coming into the season as production designer after working previously as a set decorator?
It was amazing. It's a show that's close to my heart that I've been part of since day one. So it didn't feel stressful or scary. It felt right and fun and like an amazing opportunity to do some really cool stuff.
Now, at the very start of the show, you've got the start of the season, you've got the mansion in disrepair. So you've already got this incredible visual piece for the show. Is it fun to take a location, a familiar location, and then show it in such disarray?
Fun, yes. Scary too. I mean, the mansion set is iconic to the show, and there we were taking sledgehammers and sawzalls to it. So that was a bit like, really, are we really doing this? Because we didn't have the space or the funds or the time to build a replica and destroy it. So we kind of had to just destroy our iconic, classic Shadows mansion set. So it was pretty nuts, we added ceilings where there didn't used to be hard ceilings so we could have disrepair coming down. We took out entire walls so we could see through them to the plumbing and to the decaying whatever was in the walls. We we did the big tree coming through the fancy room, and then there's never anything above it, so I wanted to put levels above to so we could see, like, your shots going up would be full and layered and have like other floors that we could peek into. So it was kind of scary but totally fun.
And even when you're not wrecking the place, does the mansion require a lot of updating from season to season? There's so much detail in there.
So much detail. No, it kind of just lives as is. If it's not in disrepair, things just need to be cleaned up a bit, touched up. But that's part of the charm of the place, that it's kind of not, really in the best shape all the time. So not much upkeep, just, making sure that all the rentals are in place and everything is looking the way it should.
Now, among the new settings for the season, you've got Nadia's nightclub. What inspired that space, and what went into creating that?
The inspiration is basically the storyline, what the writers have put on the page, and how Nadia wants to open a nightclub and they're trying to figure out how to make money to fix the house. So we had, the big vampiric sets, the archives, and we sort of redid them and turned it into a nightclub. Wanted it to feel like, Studio 54 meets vaudeville meets vampiric land. There were no real rules about it. We just, I knew we needed to bring in some cool lighting and some dynamic elements that would just take it from the dark archives library that it was. And of course we needed the stage for Baby Colin and all the other performers and all the mayhem that happened in there.
Now, the episode that you're submitting for Emmys is the night market, and that location looks incredibly elaborate. Where do you even start conceptualizing that place?
That was a fun one. So that is probably the biggest install setup, most cinematic, most stunt heavy, most layered, most set dressing filled space that Shadows has ever done. I was sort of given a heads up about the night market early on, and it was just percolating for a while of how to do that. What is a night market? What would be involved? So there's a lot of research I created, just collecting files for myself, not really sharing them wide at that point, just inspiration images, just texture. I would go down the rabbit hole of researching, folk art, early folk art. And sometimes those early dolls were really kind of creepy. And that is like a whole tangent you could go down. And I just created images and files for myself, textures and possible elements that we could focus on, and just carried that research and kept that all in mind while we were looking for locations to do this in. Also knowing that budget was a concern, and we couldn't afford all these big and amazing things that I necessarily wanted to try and tackle. So how are we going to do it? So I work closely with the set decoration team. Carrie Wiley is an amazing decorator, and she's so resourceful. She found a lot of amazing stuff, and that kind of sort of helped inform what we were going to do in the night market. And, I started to think, okay, we will design all these separate booths, and it just didn't seem like a practical way to attack a huge space like that. So I sort of went to the theory of, okay, this is a night market that happens once a month. Maybe it's like a traveling thing. They go from city to city. What would they do? What would they have? They would probably have some sort of crude infrastructure, some sort of modular elements to then build booths from. So that's kind of what we did. I knew we had to go tall because the space we chose was humongous. So I designed like a modular system of cross pieces and uprights and bases and fire bowls and all sorts of things that could work together and interconnect. And I knew that it was kind of, we had designated spaces where things were going to land, but I knew that we were kind of just going to wing it when we were installing it, like, okay, let's build this high up on this end. And then like we'll know that the camera's going to be down there looking this way. So it's kind of like an organic thing. I built a base network for all the set dressing to then be on.
And you mentioned the stunt work in that episode with the fights between the familiars, which is such a memorable scene. But how do you develop a set? How do you work on a set with stunts in mind, with that kind of the safety and all the there?
That's a good question. On this show, our stunt team, super talented people. They keep outdoing themselves, so the stunts seem to get bigger and bigger. And Guillermo Harvey's character is becoming more adept at these kind of things, so they can ask more of him and less of the stunt double. And we just work together. We figure out what are the parameters, what are the hopes and dreams, what can I do to help them, what do they need, what do we need to build triplicates of so they're going to smash into. It's just an organic conversation, and it just comes from standing in the space, reading the script, dreaming out loud together. How big, how cool, how insane, how bonkers, how fun, how destructive, how many flames, how many broken things can we do? And we just work together to make it happen.
And with characters in general who have lived for centuries, is it hard to narrow down the sort of references and inspirations you take to into each given space, or do you get to be kind of like a kid in a candy store?
Like a kid in a candy store, 100%, because we're not tied to a certain period. We're all periods. We're historic, we're current, we're Staten Island, we're whatever we want to be. So we can steer it in any way. I mean, yes, we know the provenance of each character and where they're from and their backstory, so we can lean into that. Or we can just, like you say, be a kid in a candy store and follow our noses.
And there's so much detail in as I mentioned, in every nook and cranny. What's it like, just creating and obtaining these otherworldly materials and plot props and decorations for the show?
It's so fun. It's the most fun. I tend to like to create moments. That's just where I find, obviously we have the big picture we deal with, but sometimes I really focus on like the moments that are created that a camera can find or that a character can settle into and get inspired by. So, I'm really into beautiful lighting and beautiful fabrics and giant tassels and everything kind of just pushing scale a little bit. And sometimes in your face, sometimes more austere. We just dive in and go where the inspiration goes. And sometimes I'll see a photograph, the set deck buyers will show us pictures and they're trying to show me something. And I'm like, what is that in the background? That weird leather tooled thing? Like, we need that. And then that could just inspire a whole custom wallpaper, or I don't know. It's the creative process, and it is the most fun.
Well, congratulations on your work on this series, and your work as production designer now, and as a set decorator before. And thank you so much for talking with me about it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.